to make you love a Sontaran. It really does. And by God, he's done it. A very talented actor. He studied at Trinity Hall, Cambridge, Bristol Old Vic. I mean, boy, you graduate from there, you've really made it. Of course, you can read in his biography all of the many things that he has done, but of course, he is best known for our beloved Sontaran, STRAX. So please welcome the fabulous Mr. Dan Starkey.
Hello. I think I'm going to be moderated for your pleasure and delectation. So,
I got to travel in the TARDIS with Dan Starkey. So first of all, do you want to sit down or stand up?
no, well, let's stand up. Why not?
Okay, perfect.
Yes. More energy.
So first of all, what would STRAX say to all his Canadian fans?
What are all these pitiful humans doing in one building? They're at a massive tactical disadvantage sitting down. You can easily be picked off by a plasma grenade. Or something like that.
So tell me, what is it about the Sontarans that you just love playing?
They're Sontarans, thank you very much. Pronunciation from the background. Excellent, cadet. I think they're very aggressive. People just seem to enjoy being insulted by them and threatened by them. It's the peculiar thing about some Doctor Who villains that sort of like people just love them being evil. So, but I think with the Sontarans, they've got they're belligerent, they're short and nasty, and but at the same time, sort of they're quite amusing. I think with lots of Doctor Who villains, they take themselves extraordinarily seriously, which makes them ripe for sort of comic subversion, which the Doctor does most of the time. And STRAX in particular, he takes himself very, very seriously, and not many other people do in the programme at the moment. So, yeah.
We have to point out that he comes from a particularly handsome clone batch too.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about the history of his alien race, and you've played, what, 3 different Sontarans?
Yes, I have. I've played, the very first time I did the Sontarans, that was an episode called The Poison Sky and the Sontaran Stratagem with the 10th Doctor. And I played a lovely character in that called Commander Score. And there were 2 Sontarans in that episode, one of whom was General Stahl, who was the brains of the operation, and Commander Score was kind of like a very efficient project manager for the invasion of Earth. And also he liked being in the midst of battle. Yes, my particular favourite line from his was like, "This isn't war, this is sport!" And I had a joyful afternoon with my laser gun shooting unit troops in a warehouse. And, it was just one afternoon we had to do this very long take, about 10 minutes or so, of me laughing like a blocked drain whilst shooting all these unit soldiers who would then get up again whilst the camera moved, and I'd shoot them. Yes, at the end of that I'm thinking, I'm actually getting paid to do this is hilarious. There was also a very nice moment as well where I had 2 unit troops fleeing from me, and I shot them down one at a time, and they both died at the same time, so I had to go over to the director and go, "I'm sorry, they're not dying quite properly." And that was exactly like being a kid in the playground. "You're not dying properly!" But then they were instructed and they sort of died in a more appropriate style for my Sontaran marksmanship. But so the Sontarans, they're a clone warrior race. We first meet them in the series, in the classic series, with the 3rd Doctor, the Time Warrior. And that was the sort of like the episode that I referred to most when I was auditioning for the part in the first place. And basically, they're a race of clones who've been locked in a perpetual war with another hideous alien race called the Rutans. And the way in which they sort of fight, they prosecute this battle is through cloning themselves millions and millions of times per second, so they can sustain massive casualties. And you suspect that their sort of tactics involve just hitting them hard, hitting them fast, and hitting them constantly. So so the Doctor's met them several times in the old series, and in the new series he's met them several times as well. First of all, in the episode I just mentioned with David Tennant, and then also in David's very last episode, which was the End of Time. Yeah, End of Time Part 2. I apologise. Where there's a unspeaking Sontaran trooper called Commander Jask, who's trying to shoot down Martha and Mickey, and the 10th Doctor knocks him out with a mallet. Because they also have one weakness, which is a probing vent in the back of their neck, so they have to face their enemies. Yeah, and then of course we have Commander STRAX, who...
Before we get to STRAX, though, I was going to ask you about what it was like working with David Tennant, but really he just hit you over the head with a mallet.
That's about the size of it, really. We did do one scene in the Star Wars Strategy, but he was teleported into one scene and then teleported out of it, so I didn't get the chance to see him work quite as much, but so I've worked a lot more with Matt. So people always ask me, who's your favourite Doctor? And it's a little bit of an invidious comparison anyway, but it's more difficult since I've worked a lot more with Matt than I have with David.
Well, we'll get to Matt later on,
yes.
But first of all, so STRAX is unusual, even for a Sontaran. So tell me a little bit about the whole... Okay, in A Good Man Goes to War, it's pretty clear there's an interesting backstory, and it's only hinted at. So what do you see as the backstory for STRAX?
I presume, obviously I haven't made up one in my head entirely, because I imagine Stephen Moffat has got something percolating in his devious brain that he can bring out at a later date. But no, I think it's some situation where the Doctor has foiled an evil plan with STRAX and his clone batch, who are he's avoiding, diverted some kind of atrocity that they were going to commit, and due to the particular terms upon which the Doctor made his victory, then STRAX has got to serve out a penance as a nurse, which is obviously rather inimical to the Sontarans' usual modus operandi. They like war, they like killing people, they have contempt for all other species, so actually caring for the sick is quite the antithesis of what he should be doing. So yeah, I don't exactly know the circumstances that led up to it, but I know that it's probably going to be some quite devious, timey-wimey thing the Doctor has forced him into. But I think by the time STRAX we meet STRAX in A Good Man Goes to War, he's been doing it for quite some time, so he's quite despondent really. So he jumps at the chance of actually doing some warmongering, some proper fighting, since he's been looking after the sick for quite some time.
So how does he feel about teaming up with Jenny and Vastra?
I think, obviously, like all Sontarans, he has a healthy contempt for everybody who isn't a Sontaran, but I think the actual chance, I think he's been on his own for quite some time, and I think probably being in the Battle of Demon's Run has awoken the memory in him of what it's like actually being a proper warrior. Even though Vastra and Jenny are both part of a lesser species, I think his pride, first of all, I don't know if anyone's seen, there's a little episodelet that we did called the Demon's Run 2 Days After, which has the little scene where Vastra and Jenny invite him to come and fight crime in Victorian London. And STRAX, of course, his pride, first of all, won't let him to be enthusiastic about it. And he's got a lovely line, so he goes, I thank you for your offer, but Just my Sontaran tongue hasn't quite woken up yet this morning. There we go. I thank you for your offer, but I am unable to accept since you are putrescent alien filth. Which is STRAX being quite polite, really, in his way. But